Hello, in this video we're going to see how to do 2D dynamic char arrays. Okay, so in the last video we saw how to do int arrays, int star star. In this case we're going to see how to do char star star. So again, if you go at the top, it says make sure you go and take a look at this C string section, which is just two-dimensional char arrays. Two-dimensional char arrays is used to store a list of strings. Okay, so here is how we create it. Remember, this is static arrays, and then once you have it, you just go through a single for loop to read into each one of the char arrays. Okay, so all of this is going to be the same once we get memory allocated for this two-dimensional char array, and that's what we're going to see now. So if you look at the two-dimensional char array syntax and things like that, what we are going to do here is this is a single dimensional one char array, right? Char star my string says create one pointer and allocate memory for one char array. This is one single C string. But what if we had a list of C strings like this? So I have the example of planets where, again, we are going to take a list of C strings from the file from a file, and we're going to load it into dynamically created array of C strings. Okay, so going back again, very similar to our previous int example, I have a function to print it, but in main, char star star planets is the pointer to a char eventually, or it could be a char array, pointer to a pointer. Okay, this is a simple temporary, a static array, just to read from the file into this temp name, and then we will insert it into my char star star array. So all this we know, we open the file, we check to see if everything is there. Allocate memory. Again, remember going back to our single dimension or a row, going back to our int star star that we did, we first allocate memory for that row of pointers. It's exactly the same way. There's nothing different here. We are allocating memory for a row of pointers that will point to a char something, array or a char, one char, it doesn't matter. Okay, we are going to make it point to an array of characters, which is a C string. So we do that first. We create a row of pointers. Then in this case, unlike my int array where I went through a for loop and allocated memory for the same number of columns, this is going to be a little different. We are going to read from the file the first planet name, which is Mercury, and we are allocating memory just enough for that string. That is what we're doing here. We are not randomly allocating 31 characters every time, right? So we read the first text, whatever that string is, into a temporary char array, which is just a regular char array. And then we go into this while not end of file loop, and we have already allocated the row of pointers. Now we are going to take each one of them and allocate just enough memory for that planet. So let's look at it visually and see how this. Okay, so here is my star star planets, my pointer to a pointer. The first step says planets equals char, no, new, sorry, equals new char star of, I want 10 rows because I have 10 planets. So that creates this. Each one is going to be a pointer, right? Then we read from the file into this temp name using getLine. You read into that. So you do in file dot getLine, blah, 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 and you read it into temp name. Okay, then you allocate memory just enough for that first planet. So planets of I equals new char, how much? String length of temp name plus 1. Why plus 1? Plus 1 is for that null character. Okay, so this will allocate just enough for Mercury. Mercury should be what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we just have 8 characters, or 7 plus 1 makes it 8. So we only need 0 to 7. Okay, so Mercury is 7 plus 1, totally 8 characters, including the null character. We go from 0 to 7. And so that's really what we are doing in our code. We are going through reading into temp name each planet. So if the next one were Mars, we only need 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 1, 5 characters. So 0 to 4, right? 5 slots for that. So that's what we're doing in our code. We are going through a while loop, reading from the file and checking to see end of file, allocating memory, and then of course I have the string copy. After you allocate memory, you copy from temp name to planets of 5, right? After that, it's treated as a regular two-dimensional char array, which you all know by now. So back to our code. That's what we're doing here. After you allocate memory for the row of pointers, you allocate memory for each one just enough. So I starts at 0, planets of I, you allocate memory for the first planet that you read from the file, you copy that planet's name into the array, you increment I, read the next planet, and so on and so forth until end of file. And then, of course, we call our print function, and it should print it. So I'm not going to run this code, but you copy this code and take this text file and put it on Replit, and you run it and test it and play around with it. The more you play around with it and try to do different things, the better you get. Now, this only shows you one function. Now, in the next section, we are going to talk about how to take these pointers and when to pass them by reference to functions. What if we modularize this code and take all of this and put it in a function where we load from the file in a function? And sure enough, here's the deallocation part of it. Don't forget, every time you do new, you must have a delete. So if you went through a while loop and allocated memory multiple times, and you have to go through some kind of a loop and delete the memory allocated inside the loop, then you delete this memory that you allocated by doing this. So don't just do this. That will leave all of this other memory here, and that will cause memory leaks.